All right, we're here at the Content Marketing World 2016 and on the Enterprise Marketer Podcast. But I have Jessica Best with me, and
Hello.
I've never had you on a podcast before, so I don't know much about you.
Yeah, that's not accurate.
This is your first time on this show.
It is.
And I'm sure you'll be on it many, many, many more times.
I have a feeling.
You're my go-to.
Yeah, I love it. This is always fun, so thanks for having me.
So for those people who aren't from the Midwest and don't watch the Midwest Marketing Show, can you give them a little background about who you are, how you got started, and
Yeah, well, I
what
was
you do?
born in, no, skip that part. Skip ahead. I am the director of data-driven marketing for Barkley, have been about 6 months. Prior to that, I spent 8 years with
Wow.
Influence, an email marketing specialist company. They're an agency and a technology.
Now, look, you're a millennial that spent more than 2 years, right, at a
Yes,
company.
I am. Yeah, actually, really anybody in the marketing industry staying somewhere for longer than 2 years is a really big deal. But Influence is a big part of my sort of career and has been and still really is. It's where I learned the best and the worst of email marketing. It's where I learned to be a strategist and a sort of thought leader and started doing some educational stuff, some speaking. And actually still at Barkley, I get to do some of this fun speaking stuff there too, which is what brings me to Content Marketing World. So yeah, mostly email marketing is my jam, but data-driven marketing is a bigger hold. I do everything from loyalty programs to SMS to direct mail. Yes, some people still do direct mail.
And it works.
But email is really my big thing.
So, I mean, that sounds awesome. I enjoyed working with you a lot at Influence. I thought you
Yeah.
did some great things. But whenever you said you were going to Barkley, I was like, now this is exciting because Barkley is one of those agencies that's very progressive and is moving into a lot of different realms. And they've bought up a lot of other smaller agencies
It's
to
true.
allow themselves to pivot. And I really like the idea of you coming in to tie in some of the deeper stuff.
Yeah, the data stuff. And they've actually got a whole data-driven team that's built of research and data modeling and analytics and CRM, obviously, is really the starting point of that. It's the piece that maybe the rest of the agency is most familiar with. And so I get to be sort of the conduit to some of the rest of the agency. The Ideas Center, the Innovation Center, is really excited about some of the research stuff too. But, really the creatives and the social team and the account team, they understand data because they understand CRM or email. So it's a really nice way to kind of bridge sort of the emerging opportunity of the data team and some of the traditional stuff that an agency feels really familiar with.
So when we talk about, your passion, email marketing, and the data behind that, what are some of the common things you see people doing where they're just maybe blasting off emails too much, they're not collecting information, they're not listening? What are some of those things?
It's funny that the little things are the things that drive me the most crazy because they're fixable. So a couple of things that I, without fail, will notice on an email, just the content things. The pre-header is still sort of wildly underused. Thinking about using that place for copy is somehow not occurring to people. And what I mean by pre-header is that first text in an email that comes before the graphic, usually header, and it gets pulled into the inbox. So you get to see who it's from, when it was sent, the subject line, and the pre-header, or the snippet of the pre-header that pulls into the inbox. In some cases, it actually gets 2 lines compared to the subject line's 1. So it's one of those things that drives me crazy when it says, can't read this email, click here, because it's just a wasted opportunity. The bigger things start with data. The bigger things that really are, you're missing an opportunity with your list are either you're not sending enough or you're sending too much and you're not using the information that you have. And that's kind of my specialty. That's kind of where I live within Barkley is what do we know? Even if it's very little, are we using any of it? What would we use if we could capture it? And how do we go get it? It can be anything from an ice cream client, I have one of those,
Nice.
to an airline client. And the ice cream client really doesn't know that much about you that you have not opted to tell them. And the airline company knows everything you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, and they do an excellent job. I mean, that's one of my sort of darling clients that I love to get in and work with them on their analytics because they know so much about where somebody is on their journey to either buying or flying.
And then where they are during their journey.
They
I'm
do know
sure, too.
actually where they are on a physical journey. That's
Yeah,
correct.
when we there was a scenario, and you probably don't work with this client, but it's a KLM out of Amsterdam. They're a European, and so when United flies over, or Delta, or whichever one it is today, when they fly over, then KLM usually takes over, and they're the finishing airline.
Nice.
And my son left his iPad on the plane.
Oh, boy.
And we had got through, the customs and went through the line, and he remembered on the other side, and so I had to go back through. Right, I got 3 stamps in Amsterdam within 15 minutes of each other.
Your passport looks great.
And exactly. I always want stamps, but I went back to the gate, and they said, no, we can't find it, and it's not on there. And I'm like, no, let me, I'll go look on the plane or whatever. I'll help you. And they're like, no, can't find it. I'm like, well, it was the airport people, right?
Yes.
And so,
who are not the same as the airline people.
So I fill out a form on Delta, and I say, hey, Delta, here's, what's going on. And I get part of an automation program.
Yep.
And KLM then finds the iPad, and some sort of Apple magic they have. They can pull all the email addresses associated with the account on there, and they just start emailing me. And they say, we found this iPad and all this stuff. And I thought it was through the thing I submitted to Delta.
Yeah.
And I'm like, awesome, hey,
They
here, I
don't
can give you
even
my
talk to
address,
Delta.
tell me how much money it's going to cost.
Yeah.
It's my son's, it's special to him. And they were like, well, we see you're going to be back through here in Amsterdam on this day. Can we just bring it to you?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah. And then, and then the email automation keeps coming up from Delta. Sorry, we still haven't found it yet. We're still looking. And I could tell, I'm like, oh, wow, I am part of this loop. Yeah. And even after I had it in my possession, I get more emails from them saying, we're sorry. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to find it. But KLM has a guy standing there at the gate, and they say, would Brandon Julian make himself known? Right. And so my son goes up there, and they check his passport, and they pull it out of a bag, and it's fully charged. And they give it back to him. I'm like, dang, that is data.
Check.
That is integration with social, integration with all these pieces.
And it's a good customer experience. Yeah. And really, data doesn't stop at marketing. I mean, that's a great example of how we can use data to really blur the lines between customer service and communications. And obviously KLM and Delta need to work on their communications, but with you, they were great.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter B2C or B2B that people, when even, in a B2B scenario, they're not thinking, okay, I'm communicating with this company, so I need to talk through the marketing department or the communications team, right? They just start sending emails to whoever they know. And even like clients on our projects, right? They are always like, I'm just sending emails to random people I think I'm supposed to send it to. And you have to have a cohesive plan, a data-driven plan that says, when you start to get these points, we need to pull that into some sort of master customer relationship management system.
Right.
And then
so that we can keep track of the 10 ways that Jeff has tried to contact both airlines, and that we have a consistent message when an iPad is or is not found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's integrating, especially partner companies integrating information. Nobody's gotten that just terribly right. One of the clients that I'm auditing right now, I'm looking at a couple of their competitors, and they consider Fannie Mae Chocolates a competitor out of Chicago. And Fannie Mae is actually owned by 1-800-Flowers, and they are seamless to the point of obnoxious. I mean, they are, if you sign up for Fannie Mae, you are getting 1-800-Flowers emails. That one's a little bit unexpected, and as an email marketer, I might recommend against doing that, because my expectation is certainly not that I'm going to get emails about flowers. But the integration in most companies is like on the other end of the spectrum, especially when it's an acquisition or when it's a partnership or something like that, instead of actually being different units of the same company. So
that brings out an interesting point, because I think a lot of people misuse the email addresses they get. I'm not talking about the guys who put us part of a program that says, hey, I've been trying to reach you, and it's like, yeah, I never wanted to talk to you in the first place, and then I'm sorry, you must hate me or something, so this is the last email. It's like, thank you. I always want to reply to the last email, but I'm afraid I'm going to send off a trigger, and then I'm back in the cycle.
Show the signs of life. Email again.
Exactly. But how important is it to manage that list with the permission you get, and not the ones that you think you have?
Yeah. So the presentation, 6 proven tactics for rockin' email marketing ROI, that I gave here yesterday at Content Marketing World. The first one is you have to start with permission. In email marketing, especially in 2016, even though it's not the law, The rules of the game in email marketing is that you have to have the expectation from the inbox user that you're going to send them email. And that starts with permission. And that's actually not a new concept. Seth Godin in 1999 actually wrote a whole book about how, it asks people's permission to market to them. And when you have something to say, they'll listen. That's an opt-in. They've asked to hear the smart things that you have to say, or the great content that you're going to share, or the great offers that you're going to share, which is certainly a different side of content marketing. So yeah, I think everything starts with permission. I think if you have a list of people that you're not sure you have explicit permission for, it is okay to do a bit of a warm-up series, but then you really have to go value first. To your point, you're in a drip series and you have no idea how you got there and you don't care.
Yeah.
So make it easy for people to jump out, or make it easy for people to engage or ask more questions, or start in that sort of mode of service. How can I help? I remember meeting you at Content Marketing World, for example. I remember talking about your dog or your kid's iPad or whatever it was. Great to talk. Would love to see if there's something we could do for each other. Could we do an online coffee or something?
Yeah.
There's just a way to do it, right? To set expectations that this feels personal. It's from me. You're not going to get it forever. And that there's a value to replying and to keeping that relationship open.
Absolutely. This is one of the things, like we're here, we've got our bucket out and we're collecting business cards and we're giving away books, right? And,
yeah.
And I'm getting emails, but I don't feel I have their permission yet to send them the newsletter. So I have to give them something, right? So yeah, you didn't win the hard copy. Here's a free copy of the ebook if you join the newsletter. Click the button.
Perfect.
Right?
Perfect.
And then it's like, hey, they still won, right? They won the thing that they wanted to get. It's not the hard copy. And then they're part of that cycle.
And I think that's perfect because the value that you're offering is completely relevant to the type of content that you're going to send on a regular basis. And if you put that value out and you sort of make that promise at the beginning, we're going to send you more agile marketing tips every week, every month, twice a month, whatever it's going to be. You're actually saying you wanted the information. I'm going to give you the information at no cost to you, and I'm going to send you more tips at no cost to you on a regular basis.
Exactly.
It's an easy yes, but you're asking for permission instead of assuming.
You're just not assuming.
That's it. That's awesome. It. And that makes all the difference. I mean, when we talk about successful email programs, one of the things is that it has to get through to somebody's inbox, and the spam button should terrify all marketers. Mm-hmm. So when somebody doesn't expect to get your email and they click "this is spam," they're not just making sure you don't get to their inbox, they're actually hurting your chances at getting to everybody's inbox.
Yeah.
So we got to play by that rule, right? It's different than direct mail. You stand over the recycle bin and just say, not interested. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. Not interested, right? Email is not just not interested, delete. It is, I can actually report you as a spammer. Mm-hmm. And a certain number of those, which is not a very high number, will get you blocked as spam from an entire internet service provider or email provider like Yahoo or Gmail or Outlook 365 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Office 365.
I
was
it's
like, one of those.
Outlook.com, Office
Outlook.com,
365.
there you go.
Yeah,
it's the same
thing. It's all cloud. But unlike the Postal Service, they don't care. You don't have a private version of the Postal Service besides UPS and FedEx that you can get your mail through.
Yep.
So they're not incentivized to clean that up, right? It actually gets them delivering more, and they're fine with that.
Right.
But Yahoo and Gmail and Outlook, you could jump ship, right? Yep. You can move your email. You could change. If you're getting too much spam, you could say, I'm just done. And that's kind of what happened with Hotmail, right? Yeah. Everyone was on Hotmail. It got really, really, really bad. And then they kind of moved over to Gmail because it was a better interface, less spam, and all that stuff.
And a better spam filter. I mean, the sad truth possibly with Hotmail is it's still one of the worst anecdotally, one of the worst spam filters out there. As a marketer, I feel like what we do seems to get past sort of the default settings pretty well. For whatever reason, my Hotmail inbox has learned incorrectly which things are spam and not. And I have to fish real mail out of my spam folder more often than I have to mark something as spam in my inbox.
Where Gmail, I like...
That's backwards, right?
Yeah. I'll have like 1,000, junk mails, and I'll start like just looking through them, and I never find anything good, right?
Yeah.
Except for something that might have like rolled off, and it was a newsletter, but I wasn't really reading it anyway, so that might be exactly what it intended, right?
Sure.
You didn't click on this thing ever. You just deleted it, so we're going to move it over here for you.
Yeah, and that's actually, so it's an interesting point you bring up because that engagement-based placement is getting a lot more popular. So as an email marketer, that's tough to track, right? If you've never opened an email, your email might go to spam, but because I always open my emails, it goes to the inbox for me. So it's really hard to gauge what actually happened to my email, even using testing systems. I mean, I'm a big fan of Return Path, and even having Return Path in my toolkit they only have inboxes that have never opened or clicked. So it's not even a true test even then of where the email's landing for everybody, because everybody's getting an individualized experience. The sort of term for this in the industry is deliverability, the multisyllabic way to say pain in my butt. But whether or not you're getting to the inbox, right? And it's a science, but it's also a little bit of a dance.
Yeah.
So knowing that your emails may be placed differently than mine, I know I have to work a little harder to make sure that every email is either relevant to you to drive up your engagement or could potentially be relevant to you, and that Gmail is at least giving me the chance by placing me in the inbox.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at it. Google didn't just start email just to place ads on email. That they know that search is taking a hit and more people are emailing their information to other people, and your inbox, like you said, that pre-header becomes a place for your title, your meta description, and all these places that you're going to land up. So Microsoft and Gmail with the tabs, Microsoft with the clutter folder, they're starting to try to find your intent and then moving things down the page, essentially, onto another page and bringing those things up that they know are important to you, because it's just like a search engine that's landing on you constantly.
It is, and it's not just Gmail. And I think, it's worth mentioning that the Google Apps is a little bit different. Google Apps is, you can do, or what's the other name for it? Shoot. Google Apps and
Google for Workplace, or
it's the same thing, right? So Google Apps should be the installation if you're using Gmail for work, basically. And notice that you don't have the tab set up and that you've got a junk filter that may be just a little bit stronger, or the type of email that you're getting is a little bit different and the way you're interacting with it is a little different. So I've actually found some value, like personal emails from people, valuable emails in my spam folder at Google Apps and my Barclay address. But my Gmail, boy, you're right. I have not found something valuable in my spam folder in Gmail for a long time. And that's a sign of a good spam filter. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to do. We also don't see that most of our email marketers get blocked at Gmail, or we haven't as much until this year. And a lot of that has to do either with the technical side of things or the fact that Gmail's just trying to be a better inbox provider for the user. Yeah. I mean, it's not that they don't like us email marketers, but they certainly don't like us more than their inbox users.
They have to be doing something, because they haven't updated the interface in years. And, while everyone else is a little more modern, has a nice little responsive feel to it, on 4K Gmail, pretty horrible. But but I use it. I love it, right? That's my go-to account.
And it is. We've seen a huge tilt. It used to be AOL, Hotmail, Yahoo, and Gmail years ago. And I think now what I see most often, especially with anybody who's sort of average age of their subscribers under the age of 40, Gmail is far and away the best portion of most people's lists. Yeah. And Yahoo's usually a hot second, Hotmail and AOL in that order. So
you
it's
still
interesting
hear people
to see.
using Gtalk, and it's like, seriously, I thought that thing died.
Yeah. Dude, a lot of Gmail's tools have died. A lot of Google's tools have died, and you find people that use it all. So
I think if Reader was still around, people would still be using it. But
probably, which would kill me, because, and when Reader goes away, the only way for you to get the stuff that I have to offer is to subscribe to my nifty newsletter. So
today, real time is the only time that counts. To stay relevant, you have to stay ahead. Your customers want the right information, right now, wherever they are. So how do you meet the demands of today's customers? By marketing in context. Context accounts for a customer's interaction with your brand. So each touch builds on the next, creating more meaningful experiences for your customers. At Sitecore, we call this context marketing. To do it well, you need marketing technology that has three things: contextual intelligence, content management, and omni-channel automation. Contextual intelligence gives you the information you need about your consumers, so the content you manage is more relevant and is automatically delivered wherever your customers are. The Sitecore Experience platform was built for context marketing, so you can create a more personalized customer experience. Demand more from your marketing technology. Demand more from marketing. Own the experience. Sitecore.
If people aren't using email effectively or at all, right? A lot of people aren't using it at all. What are some tips that you'd give them to get started? What are some tools that might help them just kind of break into it?
I think a lot of people have at least started or contemplated starting. I think the first thing is to figure out what your needs are and get into the right tool for you. I'm wildly biased by 8 years at Influence, but I think that may be the biggest piece of the puzzle for me. You have to have the capabilities to do the type of email marketing that you're going to do as a business. If you are a business to business with fewer than 3,000 or fewer than 1,000 contacts, you need something very different than somebody who's business to business and has millions of leads a year. If your leads are worth $5 in ice cream versus if your leads are worth $100 in airplane fare, you need very different models. If you have e-commerce versus only offline sales, if you want to do segmentation versus, if you sell flowers at a flower shop, you might just have one list. And it would be okay to find something that's really cost effective, like a MailChimp, and just do one list, the same newsletter to everybody. That'd be okay. Get what's right for you, and you can always graduate to something else. And like I said, I'm a big fan of MailChimp at the entry level. I think they're very affordable at that level.
Clean interface.
Great interface, easy to use, really responsive and helpful support tools. And at the point at which you hit that, I need segmentation or automation. They do have an automation platform, but it's maybe not their specialty. And so I think it's time then to look at something that's a little bit more enterprise. And there's enterprise that's affordable and there's enterprise that's, for Lexmark, So there's certainly a range there as well. And I think the large majority of people are in sort of a mid-market enterprise
We have this
solution.
joke in software, or at least I and some friends do, that if your company's struggling and you guys are about to go under, call yourself enterprise, put an extra 2 zeros at the end of your price tag, and you can survive because people will pay more for enterprise.
Yeah.
Even if it's not solid, they will pay more for enterprise.
What's funny? I use that word sort of arbitrarily, but usually I just mean once you get a second location or once you need more than 10 users from different franchisees, or at the point at which you need segmentation. You have donors, you have prospective donors, and you have member companies, for example, that tell their employees to give. And this is from a nonprofit client of mine. They were spent on Constant Contact. Constant Contact actually called them and said, "Stop using our system. You're breaking it."
Wow.
Because they had 10 or however many different segments and 60,000 contacts, and their license was for 10,000 contacts. So they would upload, send, delete, upload the second segment, send that version, delete,
Start to
wash,
break
rinse,
the
repeat.
rules, yeah.
Right? And so, Constant Contact is you're not using it right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to put all your contacts in there so that we can get a total count of your contacts. Exactly. And it just was not the right fit for them. It was not the right system for them. And so they moved into, quite frankly, Influence.
Yeah,
and that's been a lot better system for them to work with.
Segmentation's nearly impossible in MailChimp, right? It's like it's 8 layers deep, and you feel like you're in the back closet and you're digging around, and then the next time somebody uploads their email, you're like, oh crap, I gotta go put them in a segment, right? Because it's not intuitive, it's not easy.
And it's
with
not
the
a
forms.
segment, it's a list. You're building a whole list for that segment, and that's not bad. But in MailChimp, you are a you in each list. So that's definitely not segmentation. I could get this segment's list or content, and I could get this segment's content at the exact same time on the same day with the same content.
Yeah.
So you can never send to this list and this list because there's no deduplication. It's I built this template to go to this list. So there's a little bit of segment capability, but there's certainly not segmentation.
And so when, as a software developer, a lot of times when I'm building systems, I just start to use the SMTP client, right? And I'm sending emails directly out that aren't being tracked, right? They're just, how important do you think it is to have
not that uncommon.
a mail system of record? So we've got a contact system of record, we've got an order system of record, we've got a content management system of record, but usually mail is left out. How important is that?
Great question. And I don't know that it's usually left out, but it can be, especially if you're working on triggered emails based on some sort of action on the website. It's not always obvious that type of thing can and really should go through your email platform, sometimes called an email service provider. So if you hear me say ESP, just nip me. I'll say the right words here. But industry jargon, ESP. The website can actually trigger sends the full HTML sends through your email platform as well, even just that step adds what you're talking about, which is the tracking.
Yeah.
I want to know how well that campaign, that triggered email, has done over the course of the last 3 months or year in comparison to others, for example. And it gives you something in the realm of deliverability. So while you are sending an email from your domain, authentication is perhaps less vital. Some of the other tactics and deliverability are really not addressed when you're sending out a straight HTML dump and send. So really the best practice there is to make sure that you're sending something that's consolidated, trackable, and hopefully gets to the inbox, right, in any sort of volume. And here's the rub. Legally, you could be sending to somebody that has unsubscribed.
Yeah.
Right? Because your unsubscribes live in that email platform. Now, I think you should have one data hub. And I think that's something that's still, believe it or not, pretty rare for most marketing teams. The CRM can do that. Your Salesforce or Sugar or whatever you're using can be that main hub for you. In fact, some email platforms do both. Infusionsoft is an example of really it's a CRM that sends email. But that they have kind of a lot of the email platform capabilities. And I think that database could certainly be something that you cross-check for an unsubscribe, or that you cross-check for, that you append interaction data with or something like that. But really an email platform is a requirement at this point. And they're not that expensive to do. So even if you're at the MailChimp level, MailChimp can usually plug into most CRMs. And if they don't by default, you can find a Zapier is an online resource where you can basically build a plug from MailChimp or whatever your email platform is over to another platform, and that can be your main database.
Yeah, I mean, I think that will continue over the next decade be the issue, is what is that system of record for marketing? Is it the CRM? Is it the CMS? Because each side is growing and each side is starting to compete with each other, right?
Yeah, quite a bit, which is why you see a lot of CRMs buying up ESPs. You catch all that jargon?
Yes, exactly.
A lot of your core sales database, your sort of database of record on customer service usually too, and sales are starting to buy up a lot of email platforms. Salesforce scooped up too. They've got Pardot and ExactTarget, very different platforms, but that they now own and that they can, and boy, don't get me started on the integration there.
Oh yeah, but like
lots of opportunity there. But
like our sponsor, Sitecore,
right?
They're a CMS that has
Yeah.
an email platform in it, a profiling platform, a print platform, right?
Yeah,
and
I
so
love that
it's all
integration.
on this side, right?
Yep.
And then you can integrate the order system into Sitecore.
Yep.
So it's like you could see where both sides of the world would win.
Yep.
But it is you as your organization need to decide which one is most important to you. If it is something where it's fully operational and your entire sales team, your customer service team is using the CRM,
Yeah.
guess what? You're not moving your CMS into that space.
Yeah.
But if you're not
And
collecting,
that's the other thing is it's because different teams own different technologies. That's where you start to get a little bit of the internal battle. So it's, again, not terribly uncommon that this is a data structure question. At Barkley, we actually have a team within the data team called Datum Labs. They have a product called Datum Key that is meant to be, even if you're using a CRM, it's meant to be your main single view of customer data source, because you don't have to worry about apps talking to your CRM anymore. They will talk to everything. It can be 100% customized. You bring data in from I have seen 17 sources of data on some of their clients. It's outrageous what you have on somebody, especially when you key off of email address, because it's usually the unique identifier.
Yeah.
So you sign up for an app. They ask you for an email address. You sign up for social platform. They ask you for an email address. So when I connect with you on social, I can actually trace that back via email address, as long as it's the same email address, right?
Yeah.
That type of single view of customer, there is now sort of a need. This was sort of a thing 10 years ago too, but now there's sort of a need for that core database that lives specifically for the purpose of consolidating all that information.
I remember back in the day, it was like, before the 2000s, and Microsoft had their unsubscribe. And once you clicked it, like I could be on MSN and I say unsubscribe, they would just say all, any communication. So as a Microsoft influencer, I had to be like, I couldn't unsubscribe to things because I didn't want to get off the list, like knowing what the MVP program's doing or anything like that. It was interesting to see how it could go on the other side.
Well, and that's even just within your email program. So again, that cycles back to what tips would you give somebody? What are the things you see people doing wrong? I think there's a great opportunity for preference centers. even when you unsubscribe, you should have the option of stopping the newsletter, but still getting the MVP information or the insider information.
Maybe even the frequency, right? So
Sure.
a daily or every time it's updated, or then you could curate that and put a monthly out or a weekly, and your customers, that's what they want, right? It may be a time in their life, right? When you were getting ready for the wedding, right? Turn stuff off until this date and then crank it back up again.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny? There's actually a feature, I think it's in Silverpop, now owned by IBM. You can pause your email subscription. And about a year after they turned this feature on, somebody had asked my pal that works over there, Lauren, how many people would you say turn it back on? Either remember or are interested in turning it back on. And he says about 5%. So really, it's an unsubscribe with a 5% chance of re-engagement. I would take it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see that pause. You think about holding your mail at the post office while you're out of town or something. It turns out you do turn your mail back on. You may not turn your email back on. So.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show. We're at the 30-minute mark, and I think we could go on for another year or two.
Probably. We'll go on till next Content Marketing World.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a pleasure to see you here, and it was awesome to see you on stage and presenting, and you had a full room. I could only fit inside the door, right? That's as far as I could get, is to walk next to the door. But can't wait to hang out with you.
It's been a great turnout for email marketing this year. They have a whole track this year, which is a really big deal. So
next year, I'm sure it'll be even more email.
I'm going to get that keynote.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm getting it.
Okay, you'll get the keynote next year. I'll take it the year after that.
Yeah, we'll split it. We'll
Good idea. Yeah.
A/B testing.
We'll work on that before next year.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
There are so many marketing tools to choose from these days. More than 3,500 the last time we checked. If you're overwhelmed and confused, you're not alone. With so many options, marketers are having a difficult time trying to select which tools will meet their team's unique needs. So why do the top content marketing teams choose DVHQ? It's because of our unique focus. Let me explain. The typical content marketing process looks something like this. You start with a defined strategy, then you ideate and brainstorm with your team. Create a plan of attack, produce the content, optimize it, then publish and promote the content, and finally, review the analytics to see how your content performed. As you may know, most marketing software tools are built to support the back half of this process. There are countless CMS platforms, email marketing tools, marketing automation systems, social publishing tools, analytics suites, etc. The list goes on and on. But here's the thing. The back half of the process is not where companies are really struggling. What marketing teams are really struggling with is the upfront part of the process, the strategy, the ideation, planning, workflow, and collaboration during the content production process. Sound familiar? If you don't get your upfront strategy and planning right, the odds of consistently publishing great content is, not very good. So these upfront areas are where we focus 100%. We don't want to reinvent wheels or be a jack of all trades, master of none type of content marketing solution. DVHQ is on a mission to build a content marketing platform that makes it incredibly easy for you to plan and produce high quality content more efficiently. This approach then gives you the freedom to integrate and connect DVHQ to your preferred downstream tools. So, if you're looking for help with strategy, ideation, planning, and collaboration, then we're the solution for you.